If you take any product, material constitutes a major part of the total cost of the product. The ratio of material cost to the total cost gives an idea about how material contributes to the total cost. Of course, this ratio varies from product to product. If you take the gold ornament, almost the entire cost is contributed to the material itself. That is the cost of the total cost is almost 1. It means the most of the cost itself, much less compared to the material cost. On the other hand, if you take the products like the painting or the handicraft items, the ratio of material cost to the total cost is very low. It means the major part is contributed by the labor. The labor cost predominantly is much higher compared to the material cost. But if you take the usual industrial production, it is the material that contributes predominantly to the total cost of the product. That is, the material costs major part of the cost of the total product. In this class, we'll be discussing different issues of material management. A proper material management is essential for successful working of any organization. Improper material management may result in huge losses to the industry. Now let us continue with our discussion on material management. Let's now have a quick overview of the contents of our today's class. We'll start with the material management. We'll discuss different issues related to material management. Then we'll discuss the functions of material management. We'll go on to discuss the purchase and the different methods of purchase and compare them. Then we'll discuss certain documents related to purchase, such as the tenders and comparative statement. Finally, we'll have an interactive quiz where you will select your question, you will answer them. Let's now have a look at what exactly is material management. Material management is a function which aims at integrated approach, both procurement of material and usage of material in an industrial undertaking. That is, the two issues are important: how materials are procured, how materials are used. It is essential to reduce the cost at both levels. It is essential to procure material at a most competitive price, and at the same time, it is also equally important to use the material optimally within the industry. So the overall aim is to reduce the cost both at the procurement level and at the usage level by procuring in a most competitive price, and then efficient handling of the material within the industries and at all stages of production. Let's now come to the different functions of management. The first and foremost function is to have a proper plan and program for material management. That means there should be a systematic plan for the material management and a program which is to be implemented for successful operation of the material management. Another important issue is the storekeeping. Every organization will have certain materials which is to be kept in stores. So how efficiently it is stored in stores, how efficiently that is issued whenever it is required are important considerations. So storekeeping is an important function of material management. Then the inventory control. Every industry will have certain materials as raw materials, as work in process, as semi-finished product, as well as the finished product. A proper control of the inventory of the organization is very essential in material management. So inventory control is an important function of material management. In inventory, certain issues are involved. The simplification refers to the minimizing the variety, and codification is giving certain codes to the materials so that it is easy to identify the materials, it is easy to communicate about the materials, it is easy to order the materials. The using proper codes makes the metal management more efficient, and then the standardization of the material, the management process are the essential components of material management. Then the transportation of material to and from the industry has to be done in the most economical, in the most efficient the manner. Not only to and from the industry, within the industry, how do we transport material from one place to another place is very important. That is where the material handling comes into picture. There should be most efficient the method of material handling within the industry, which forms an essential part of the material management. Finally, the how do we dispose the scrap and the surplus material is also an important function of material management. Purchase is a very, very important activity in any organization because that is where the huge money is involved, and there are the high chances of misappropriation of funds in purchase. So the purchase is a very, very critical function that has to be carefully controlled. We need to remember that this is a very sensitive function, and we need people of high honesty and personal integrity to manage the purchases within the organization. Purchase is nothing but the buying of materials for the industry. The buying may be with respect to the equipment, with respect to the materials, with respect to the tools, with respect to consumables, or any of the items required for the industry. Sometimes if we use another word, what is known as the procurement. The procurement has got a much broader meaning compared to the purchase. It includes purchase, but it goes beyond that. It includes so many additional functions like they're doing proper market research for purchase so that the purchase is done the more efficiently, more systematically at a competitive price, and then the storing the material in a most efficient manner, accounting the material in the organization. These are all part of procurement, which has got a wider meaning than just purchase. Let's now come to the objectives of purchase with respect to the top management. There are 5 R's or 5 rights with respect to the purchase in an organization. First is the right quantity. The material purchase has to be in right quantities. It should not be less or more. The fixing or an appropriate quantity and buying as per that the quantity is important. Next is we need reliable suppliers. That means buying from the right supplier is also equally important for in an industry. And buying in right quality is very important. That means we have specifications, and we have to ensure that the purchase is done exactly as per our specifications. So the quality is extremely important. Right quality is another the R of purchase. Similarly, the purchase is to be done at the right time. So that the time also is very important as the purchase is concerned. Finally, the price. At what price we are buying, it has to be the right price of buying. Let's now discuss the broad objectives of buying from operating and functional perspective. The first and foremost objective is to ensure uninterrupted flow of materials. The industry should not be made to wait for materials at any stages of production. The people should not wait for material. Material should be available when it is required within the organization. That is, there should be a smooth and uninterrupted flow of materials into the organization whenever it is required. That is the first and foremost objective of purchasing. Next is how do we buy in a competitive manner. That means in the market, the purchase has to be done from the reliable suppliers and the most economical the rate. The company has to buy very competitively from the market. This buying should be a wise process. It has to be the combination of the services and the price. That is, whenever a product is purchased, it is purchased at a particular price, and then after purchase services like installing, maintenance is also important. So that means the company has to buy a proper combination of the services and the price. So this involves the taking the important decisions with respect to the warranties, with respect to the terms and condition of buying, in addition to the price of the product. The buying should be in such a way that the inventory investment cost should be minimum. That is, the company should be able to operate with minimum investment on inventories. The excess inventory investment will work as a dead money for the organization. So the smaller the inventory, the better for the organization. At the same time, as we have said earlier, there should be an uninterrupted flow of materials. The people should not be made to wait for materials. Establishing the contact with the reliable suppliers is an objective of the purchasing. Maintaining continuous contact with reliable suppliers and getting material from them is another objective of purchasing. And finally, it is also important to maintain a good relationship with the suppliers. A proper communication with suppliers, both at the formal level and informal level, is essential. That is another objective of purchasing. Let us now come to the methods of purchasing. Broadly, there are three methods. One method is known as method purchasing strictly by requirement. Another method is purchasing for a specific future period. And the third method of purchasing is what is known as the market purchasing. Let us see what we mean by purchasing by strictly by requirement, purchasing for a specific future period, and market purchasing. When do we eat? Ideally, we should eat when we are hungry. That is true of any industry. When the industry needs material, it needs material when it wants it for manufacturing. That is, the industry buys material only when it is required for production in required quantity for a particular job. This is what is known as purchasing strictly by requirement. That is, the company has got an order with it. It will calculate the material required for that particular order and buy only that much material that is required for that particular order. This is purchasing material strictly based on requirement. This is also known as the hand-to-mouth purchasing. When I say hand-to-mouth, I mean purchasing just when it is required. Just like when we eat, when we are hungry, hand-to-mouth purchasing means we buy materials when we exactly need the materials. Let's now discuss the advantages and limitations of hand-to-mouth purchasing. We'll first discuss the advantages. The number one advantage of hand-to-mouth purchasing is that the market fluctuations will not affect the industry. That is because when the industry receives an order, it will calculate the cost as per the market price of the materials. It will order for the materials and manufacture it and gives it. That is, the entire costing is based on the price of the materials in the market. And after the buying and starting production, if the rate of the material goes high in the market, the company will not survive, will not incur any loss. That is, the market fluctuations does not affect the industry in this type of purchasing. Secondly, we need less storage space. As we are buying material only based on the order, we will buying in small quantities which will be immediately used. So we don't need huge storage space for storing materials. That will reduce the storage cost for the organization. At the same time, it also has got certain disadvantages. The number one disadvantage is that the high distribution cost. That is, when you transport material in smaller quantities, your distribution cost per unit is going to be high. And a case may arise where somebody may place a very urgent order with the organization, but the company will not be able to accept that order because it will not have sufficient raw material with it at that point of time. That means if there is a sudden demand for the product, the company will not be able to execute that because of the shortage of material. It means the sudden demand cannot be met. Similarly, there is no bargaining power as far as the organization is concerned. That is, if you have got high bargaining power while buying materials, if your quantity of purchase is very huge, if you go to the market and if you want to buy 1 kg of apple, you don't have any bargaining power. On the other hand, if you want 100 kg of apple, you can get the apple at a much lower rate per kg. That means you have got a high bargaining power only if you buy on large quantities, because this purchase is in small quantities. In this case, the bargaining power is not there. This is another drawback of the hand-to-mouth purchasing. Let us come to the next method of purchasing, what is known as the purchasing for a specific future period. How do you purchase grocery for your home? For the lunch, you don't buy metal in the morning and then prepare lunch. And for dinner, you don't buy metal in the evening and use it for dinner. What we do is, we purchase for a specific future period, say 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, and we store it and we use it as and when it is required. This is the same case in industry also. The industry calculates the material requirement for a specific future period and calculates and purchases that much quantity of the material which will be used as and when time comes. So the specifying material purchase for a specific future period means the materials are purchased in sufficient quantities for a particular future period. That is, the material is calculated for a particular future period. This future period is comparatively small period. It's not a very large period. Let us discuss the advantages of purchasing the material for a specific future period. We'll discuss the advantages first. The market fluctuations does not affect much. Of course, there is some effect of market fluctuations, but as the purchase is for a small future period, it is not in huge quantities. So even if there is huge difference of the cost in the market, of the price of the metal in the market, that will not affect the organization in a very significant way. That is, the effect of market fluctuation is much less. As the purchase is done in small quantities, the capital involved in purchase is less. The company can manage with less funds for purchase. In addition, the small storage space is required as the purchase is done in small quantities. So the storage cost is also less. On the other hand, coming to the disadvantages, here again, if there is a sudden increase in demand for the product, the company may not be able to execute that. That is, there is less scope for sudden increase in demand, sudden increase in production, whenever there is sudden increase in demand in this type of the purchase. Secondly, as the purchase is not for huge quantities, the company does not have much bargaining power in this type of purchase. Let's move on to the next level, next type of purchasing, what is known as market purchasing. In market purchasing, the market trends are analyzed carefully for making purchase decisions. For example, in the market, there will be seasonal fluctuations in the cost of material. In some seasons, materials may be available at lower cost. In other seasons, it will cost more. In addition, the supplier may give discount if you buy above a particular level. He may not give the discount if you buy below that particular level. All these market trends are analyzed in addition to the PPC calculations for the material requirement. That is, a compromise is done between our requirement and the market trends, and it is usually the more based on the market trends. In this method, depending on the market trends, the materials are purchased in huge quantities and stored. The main criteria of market purchasing is the analyzing the market trends and then using this market trend to the best advantage of the organization. Let us now discuss the advantages and limitations of market purchasing. First, let us discuss the advantages. There will be less distribution cost. That is because when the material purchase is done in very large quantities, the distribution cost per unit is going to come down. The company has got the high bargaining power because of the large quantities of purchasing. It can buy more competitively, it can negotiate with the suppliers, and it can afford to get at the most economical price in the market. Coming to the disadvantages, as the company is buying the materials in large quantities, if the market topples, the company is going to suffer huge losses. That is, as we are buying in large quantities at a particular price, after some time, if the price drops in the market, the company will suffer the huge losses. There is a big risk in market purchasing. Also, we need more storage space and better storage facilities for storing huge quantity of materials. When we buy in huge quantity, there are chances of the spoilage of the materials. There are chances of deterioration of the materials. These things are to be avoided by efficient storing. For that, we will need more storage space, and also it will involve more storage cost. Let us come to another method of purchasing, what is known as the rate contract purchasing. In rate contract purchasing, the company enters into a contract with some reliable suppliers for its future requirements. That means company will sign a contract for supplying materials for some future period at an agreed price. This future period may be 2 to 3 years. This will avoid a lot of clerical work of purchasing. This is usually done if the company needs a specific material on a regular basis. Instead of buying it every time, it may enter into a contract with a supplier so that most of the clerical work is reduced for this contract period. This contract may be subjected to review or cancellation by giving an appropriate period of notice. Say if the supplier is not able to supply, he may give a period of notice, say a few months, and after that he may stop the supplying. Similarly, if the buyer is not interested in buying, he may give a notice of some period, and after that he may stop buying it. That is, it is possible to review or cancel the order with an appropriate period of notice. This is ideal for materials like the pig iron, like coal. For example, if for a thermal power plant, it regularly requires coal, it may enter into a contract with the supplier of coal. He will regularly supply the coal at an agreed price between the supplier and the customer. That is what the rate contract purchasing is. Let us discuss the advantages and limitations of rate contract purchasing. First, we'll discuss the advantages. The company has got more bargaining power. That is because the purchasing is in large quantities and also for a longer future period. Under these situations, company can negotiate with the suppliers and can arrive at the best possible price for the organization. That is, the bargaining power will ensure that the company can buy at a much lower rate in the market. And there can be strict control over the purchase as the quantity as well as the time of supply are well known in advance. There can be scientific storage method can be adopted because the quantity of purchase is known, the type of material is known, time of delivery is known, so everything is agreed as per the contract. So the method is, the storage is going to be more scientific and more the systematic. Coming to the disadvantages, there may be delay in getting materials from the suppliers because sometimes the supplier may not supply the material in time. That is basically because now the supply of material is out of control of the buyer. That means he has entered into a contract and now the other person has to supply as per the contract. If he is not strictly following the contract terms and conditions, the buyer is going to be in trouble. That is, sometimes the buyer may feel helpless in rate contract purchasing when the supplier does not follow the terms and conditions of the supply strictly. Let us come to another method of purchase, what is known as central purchase organization. You consider the big concerns like KEB or KSRTC. So what these organizations do is they have got different depots and sections in different places, and each section usually maintains its own stores which is separate. Now, if every store buys its own materials from the local market, there are certain disadvantages. First of all, the rate, the price at which the different stores will buy will be totally different. And then because the purchase in small quantities, the company does not have much bargaining power. The material will cost more for the company as it is purchased in small quantities at different places. Now, instead of that, what they do is they will set up a central purchase organization, and this central purchase organization will purchase material at a central point for all the stores, and then they will supply the materials to the stores as per the requirement. So what we have to note is that the purchase is not decentralized. Entire purchase is done from one location at a central point, and then the required material is supplied to different stores on demand. Because the purchase is in large quantities now, the company can buy a more systematic purchase. It can negotiate with the different suppliers, and then it will get the material at the lowest possible price. That is, it can get the material at much lower price because of the large quantity of purchase. And also, because purchase is done in one place, a strict control of purchase is possible in this type of organization. That is, in the central purchase organization, the material will cost less and also purchase will be strictly under control. Let us now come to the purchase procedure. In any organization, there should be a definite purchase procedure. A systematic procedure is essentially for controlling purchase in any organization. Let us now discuss the purchase procedure. It all starts with the purchase requisition received at the purchase department. That is, the purchase department does not buy materials as per its whims and fancies. It buys materials based on the request received from different departments. That is, whenever material are needed by the department, they will give a written requisition to the purchase department, And now purchase department will consolidate all these requisitions for purchase and will make a list of items to be purchased. This is the first step, receiving requisitions and making list of the items to be purchased. Sometimes the requisition may not have the exact specifications for a product. For example, if you say computers comes in different configurations. Some of the configuration will cost less, some will cost more. So exact configuration is to be specified when we say computers. That applies to all other the product. The specifications are to be clear with respect to the product when you have to buy the product. So any material has to be properly specified before it is purchased. That is the next step. That is the finalize the exact specification for a product. Next, prepare a list of reliable suppliers for the product. That is, in the market, there may be different suppliers for the product. We may have to make a reliable list of the reliable suppliers, either by market the analysis or by from our past experience. A list of suppliers will be prepared. Next comes the quantity. If the quantity is very small, there is no point in following an elaborate purchase procedure. It is purchased locally and payment is made. On the other hand, if the purchase is for very large quantity, then we need to follow an elaborate purchase procedure. This procedure involves the inviting tenders. That is, the company writes to the suppliers. So that is what is known as notice inviting tender, NIT, about the quantity required and also the specification of the material. So this notice inviting tender is given to the suppliers. Now what the supplier does is, he will quote his price as per the quantity and as per the specification of the product. He will give the tender to the company. The company will receive all these tenders up to a particular date and time. This date and time will be specified in the notice inviting tender itself. Until that date and time, the company will receive the materials, receive the tenders. And you need to remember that these tenders are received in closed envelopes. The company will not open the tender. It will be opened at a prescribed date and time, and the representatives of the companies which have given tender are allowed to be present at the time of opening the tender for the transparent process. After the tenders are opened, a comparative statement is prepared. This comparative statement gives the price quoted by different suppliers and the terms and conditions of different suppliers. Based on this comparative statement, the most economical tender is selected. That is, the selection of the firm which has quoted the most economical, the most competitive price is selected, and the purchase order is given to that particular firm. That is, the firm is selected based on the quotations and the comparative statement, and then the order is given to the firm which has quoted the minimum possible price for as per the specifications in the order. Once the purchase orders are issued, different people are to be notified of the purchase order. That is, the copy of the purchase order is to be given to different people. It has to be given to the stores to ensure that he is prepared to receive the material when it comes. That means he has to make arrangement for storing the materials which are supposed to come from the supplier. The copy of the purchase order is to be given to the account section so that he will be knowing about the payment to be made to the supplier after he supplies the item. The copy of the purchase order is to be given to the inspection section also, because the materials are to be inspected once they are received from the supplier. And in addition, the department which has given the requisition is also intimated about the placement of the purchase order as per the requirement. That means everybody is to be kept informed of the purchase order when the purchase orders are issued. And after some time, the supplier will receive the material. So these materials are to be received. The arrangement for receiving the material as well as inspecting the material on receipt is to be done. That is, the receiving material and inspecting material is the next step in the purchase procedure. Finally, if the material is found satisfactory, the bill is passed and the amount payment is made to the supplier. So it starts with the purchase requisition and it ends with the payment of material to the supplier. The entire steps in between is what is known as purchase procedure. Let us now move on to tenders. A tender is nothing but a written offer to do a particular work or supply materials at a particular price. That is, when the company wants to buy material in large quantities, it has to inquire with different suppliers about the cost at which they are going to supply the price, and they will give what is called the tender. Based on this tender, company can select the economic supplier so that you can place order with that supplier. Basically, there are three types of tenders. One is called a single tender. Another type of tender is what is known as a limited tender. And the third type of tender is what is known as the open tender. Now let us discuss the differences between these three types of tenders. Suppose you want to go for purchasing some very critical items, like say pacemaker for heart. You don't go to the market, invite quotations from different people and go for the cheapest possible pacemaker. You don't go for that. That is because here the quality is extremely important. You will go for only the trusted supplier for this particular product. That is, when the quality is extremely important, you go for only one reliable supplier whom you trust, and you place an order with that particular person. And the terms and conditions and the price will be fixed with the mutual understanding between the buyer and the seller. This is a case when the quality of the product is extremely important. Maybe for some certain defense items, the quality may be very extremely important. Certain nuclear items, the quality may be certainly extremely important. For such the items, it is not the open tender. The tender is invited from only one person, and based on the mutual understanding, the rates are fixed. That is what is called the single tender. Let us discuss the next type of tender, what is known as the limited tender. In limited tender, what the company will first do is, it will decide the quantity, it will decide the specifications of the material, then it will make a list of suppliers, a list of limited reliable suppliers. So that is, there will be a list of suppliers which the company considers reliable. The company will write to these suppliers inviting tenders specifying the quality of the material as well as the quantity required. These companies will give tenders, and these tenders are received up to a specified date and time. That is, when the notice inviting tender, the company will specify the time and date up to which the companies can give their tenders. So these are received from the company. These are received by the purchase department within the company, and then these tenders are opened at a specified date and time that was also indicated while the inviting the tenders. We need to remember that the tenders are given in the sealed envelopes, and these sealed envelopes will not be opened by the company and the prices leaked to any other company. The tenders received will be kept intact. It will be opened at a specified date and time to ensure transparency. The representatives of the company are allowed to be present at the time of opening tenders. That is, whoever has given tender is also allowed to be present at the time of opening tender, so that he is sure that the process is followed, is the transparent one. And after opening the tender, a comparative statement will be prepared. This comparative statement is nothing but a statement showing the prices quoted by the companies and the terms and conditions, which we will discuss comparative statement a little later. And finally, based on the comparative statement, the orders are issued to the company which has quoted the most competitive rate. That is, whoever has quoted the lowest the price will get the orders. Let's now move on to open tender. So this is usually adopted if the quantity is very large, like in government organizations or public sector undertakings, which involve huge quantity of purchase. Here, the company does not write any letter inviting the tenders. What it will do is, it will give the advertisements in newspapers about the tender. That means the notice inviting tender is given in newspapers. Anybody who follows the terms and conditions mentioned in the advertisement is free to apply. Nobody is debarred or restricted from applying as long as he follows the terms and conditions mentioned in the notice inviting tender. That means anybody who meets the terms and conditions is free to submit his tenders. These tenders are received as in limited tender case, and then they are opened at a particular place and time. Here again, the companies which are giving tenders are allowed to send their representatives at the time of opening of the tender, and a comparative statement will be prepared based on the tenders, and this comparative statement will help us to place the order to the most economical quotation. Sometimes there is a risk of the person backing out from executing the tender after getting the order. To avoid such possibilities, sometimes it is insisted to deposit a fixed amount of money known as the earnest money along with the tender. That means the person who is given tender has to deposit a fixed amount as earnest money while giving the tender. This is to ensure that he does not back out after receiving the order. After tender is opened, everybody else who did not get the order will be immediately refunded the earnest money. The earnest money of the person who has got the tender will be settled at the time of settling his bill. Let us finally come to the comparative statement. Comparative statement is nothing but a statement comparing the prices and terms and conditions quoted by different potential suppliers for the goods. That means each person has quoted his price and his terms and conditions. We consolidate all those data into a table. This table is what is known as a comparative statement. So let us look at an example. In the comparative statement, this is the serial number. This is name of the article and the specifications. This is quantity required, and all these are with respect to the suppliers. Let's take an example. Suppose the company wants the laser printer. It wants in one quantity. The firm A quotes 8,500. The firm 2 quotes 7,300. But this is not the end. The company 3 costs 9,200. Then maybe any number of such companies, we go on writing the one after the other. But in addition to the price, we also have to look at the terms and conditions. This company has quoted 8,500. It's giving a 2 years warranty. This company which has quoted 7,200 is giving 1 year warranty. So that means there's a difference of 1,200 rupees here. But at the same time, there is a difference of the warranty of 1 year. Now we have to analyze whether this additional warranty of 1 year is worth 1,200 or less. If it is more than 1,200, then this company is eligible to receive the order. If the value of 1 year additional warranty is less, is the 1,200, then this company is eligible to get the order. That means we have to make a consolidated study of the rates quoted as well as the terms and conditions so that we can place order to the most economical supplier of a particular product. So that is the usage of comparative statement. Well, friends, we discussed the different aspects of material management. We started our discussion with the importance of material management. When we discussed purchasing and different methods of purchasing, then we went on to discuss the documents like tender, comparative statement with respect to the purchasing. Now, we will play an interactive quiz.
I hope all the teams, all the polytechnics are able to listen to me. I request the polytechnics to select their questions after I display the list of questions. What I suggest is you use the chat window for selecting the questions. There are 8 questions on the screen, number 1 to 8. In addition, there are 2 more questions here. So as I understand, the GPT Chitradurga and GPT Gadag are online. I request GPT Gadag to select their question. That means they can type 1 to 8 so that I will be showing the questions which is selected to them, which they select, so they can answer the question. You can use the chat window to select the question. Okay, I will select question number 2 for GPT Gadag. Please try to answer the question. We'll go for question number 2. Be ready. Here comes your question. Your question is, buying purely based on requirements is called a dash. Scheduled buying, hand-to-mouth buying, tender buying, seasonal buying. Your answer, please. If you are not able to use the chat window, please unmute your mic and give your answer. Let us now check the answer. The answer is B. That is, buying purely based on requirement is called hand-to-mouth buying. Now only question number 2 is gone. All the remaining questions are available. I request GPT Chitradurga to select their question. Okay, we'll go for question 7. Be ready. Here comes your question. When we expand the concept of purchase by including related tasks like storage, accounting, etc., it's called dash. Stock management, inventory control, work process control, procurement. Your answer, please. Let us now look at the answer. The answer is 4. That is, when we broaden purchase by including additional tasks like storage, accounting, etc., that becomes procurement. Now question number 1, 2 and 7 are gone. We'll go for the next question. We'll go for question number 5. This question, any team can answer through the chat window. Here comes your question. Dash are the materials which have not undergone any transformation since their receipt from the suppliers. You can look at the screen, 41 seconds remaining. The 4 answers are work in process, raw materials, stock, finished products. It's almost time. Yes. The raw materials are the unworked materials. That means the materials which have not gone transformation after receiving may be termed raw materials. Question number 3, 4, 6, 8 are remaining. Now anybody can pick from the remaining questions. Yes, we'll go for question number 6. Here comes the question. Which of the following is not a part of the 5 R's of purchase? Right quality, right quantity, right price, right transport. We have even seen 5 R's. Which one of these is not included in the 5 R's? Yes, you are right. The right transport is not included in the 5 R's. Remaining 3 are the parts of 5 rights with respect to purchase. We are left with 3 more questions. Question number 3, 4 and 5. Now it's your turn to pick up any of the questions from these 3 available questions. Okay, we'll go for 3. Here comes the question. Making use of seasonal fluctuations to maximize profit involves dash buying. Is it hand-to-mouth buying? Is it market buying? Is it seasonal buying? Is it fluctuating buying? 38 seconds remaining, 36, 35, 34, 33. Time is running out. Yes, the right answer is market buying. That means analyzing the market trend for seasonal fluctuations involves market buying. We are left with two more questions. The question number 4 and 8. Okay, we'll go for question number 8. Here comes the question. Market fluctuations have least effect on dash method of purchasing. Hand to mouth, market, specific, future, seasonal. Your answer, please. Yes, you are right. The right answer is hand to mouth purchase. That is, the hand to mouth purchase is the method of purchasing where the market fluctuations will have the least effect. You are left with only one question from the main 8 questions. You don't have to pick it because that's the only remaining. I will pick it. Question number 4. Yes, here comes the question. Raw materials and work in process can be classified as direct material, indirect material, finished material, standard material. Your answer, please. Yes, that's right. The right answer is direct material. That is, the raw material is also direct material. Work in process is also direct material. We are now left with 2 more bonus questions. This is free for anybody. Any team can answer. Question number 1. Ready? If you need coal regularly to operate a thermal power plant, you will go for dash method of purchasing. That is, what is the method of purchasing you will go for? Market purchasing, central purchase organization, rate contract purchasing, hand to mouth purchasing. The right answer is rate contract purchasing. You will enter into a contract with a supplier of coal and you will run the plant based on the supply of coal as per the contract. Yes, we are left with the very last question. Be ready. When quality is extremely important, you go for dash type of tender. Single tender, limited tender, open tender, all of the above. Yes, you are right. When the quality is extremely important, we can't afford to buy from anybody. You will have to go for a single tender where you buy from the most reliable person for that particular product. Well, friends, that's about the quiz. Now I'm open for interaction. You can ask any doubts, any queries with respect to my class.